All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're solving quadratics with the quadratic formula. So you guys take notes on this. Hopefully, if you haven't taken notes on this yet, you should go do that first. Go to the Ed puzzle like I instructed you guys, take your notes, do that first, then come back and you can watch this video if you need to. Okay, but you want to take the notes first. So the quadratic formula, so the first thing when we solve a quadratic, it has to be in standard form. And we want it to be in order and everything on the same side of the equal sign. So you can see here in the first one, we want to move the 10b to the other side. So by doing the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 10b from both sides here first. So that gives me 3v squared minus 10v minus 13 equals 0. All right, now that it's all in order, we're going to use the quadratic formula and solve it. First, I'm going to list my A, B, and C terms. So my A term is 3, my B term is -10, and my C term is -13. Okay, let's write out the quadratic formula, which is negative. So negative B plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. And all we're doing is just plugging stuff in and then just working it out. Okay, but we have to be very careful. It seems easy, oh, just plug it in. But if you're not paying attention to signs and you're not calculating the little things correctly, then the whole thing goes wrong. So you just have to be real careful, okay? All right, so this negative right here does not count for that negative when I plug in b, right? So when I plug this in, it's going to be -10. Talk about that in a second. Plus or minus the square root of b again, so b is -10. So -10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is -13. All divided by 2 times a, which is 3. So you'll notice on the first step, all I did was plug in. Now let's do some calculations, all right? You should look at this as 3 different sections, okay? Here's one section right here, here's another section underneath the square root, and here's a section down here. The one that's underneath the square root is where most people have issues, so you have to be real careful. Okay, first section, -10. Well, we know that that's just +10. Plus or minus the square root. Okay, let's do each, so in this section, let's do this part, and then we'll do this part. -10 squared is 100. Now, next one, what's -4 times 3? You should have a calculator in front of you, by the way, which is -12. And then -12 times -13, that gives me a positive, right? And that's going to be +156. So I'm going to write +156. All divided by, okay, 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, let's simplify the square root now. So 100 plus 156 is 256. So 10 plus or minus the square root of 256, all divided by 6. All right, well, let's check out what the square root of 256 is. 16, exactly. I know I'm going into other problems here, but that's okay. You guys can adjust your space or do it on separate paper if you run out of space. 10 plus or minus 16 divided by 6. All right, so that we're going to get 2 answers here, right? Because it's plus or minus. So 10 plus 16 is 26. And then we have to divide that by 6. So 26 divided by 6 is about 4.3. So 4.3, that's one answer. And then 10 minus 16 is -6 divided by 6, which is -1. So those are our two solutions. One of them is approximately 4.3, and the other one is exactly equal to -1. Those are your 2 solutions, all right? Let's go to number 2 here, same exact thing. Let's get everything to be on the same side. So you can either subtract 2x squared from both sides, or you can move the other stuff to the other side. I like my a term to always be positive. So in this case, it's +2. So I'm going to move the other stuff. I'm going to add 3x to both sides and -44 both sides. So add 3x minus 44. So now I have 2x squared plus 3x minus 44 equals 0. All right, our A term is 2, our B term is 3, our C term is negative 44. All right, let's write out our quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 times a. So here, let me use a highlighter here so you can see our b term is 3. We're going to plug that in for here and here. Our a term is 2. We're going to plug that in right there and right there. And finally, our c term is negative 44. That's just going to go in right there. So let's carefully just plug in, and then we'll work out the math. So I have negative 3 plus or minus square root of 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 44, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2. Okay, so let's simplify here. Let's go underneath the square root. 3 squared is 9, right? So I'm going to go over here. I'll go down below it. So I have negative 3 plus or minus the square root. 3 squared is 9. All right, and let's calculate the rest. So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So negative 8 times negative 44 gives me positive 352. So I'm going to write plus 352. All divided by 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, let's keep simplifying that square root. So negative 3 plus or minus the square root. If I add those up, 9 plus 352, that gives me 361, all divided by 4. So let's figure out what the square root of 361 is. It's exactly 19. So now I have negative 3 plus or minus 19 divided by 4. And these will give me my 2 answers here. So let's do negative 3 plus 19, which is 16, divided by 4 is 4. Negative 3 minus 19 is negative 22, and then negative 22 divided by 4 is negative 5.5. Those are your 2 solutions, 4. So up here, I'm going to write x equals, what were they? 4 and negative 5.5. 2 solutions there. All right. And that's how you guys are working out the quadratic formula. That's essentially what you're doing with the rest of them. Same exact stuff. Just make sure everything's on the same side first. Write out your A, B, and C terms. Plug it in carefully, and then just carefully calculate and work it out. And that's how you, so this is just another way that you can solve with the quadratics, is using the quadratic formula. You can factor, you can complete the square, which we were doing last week, and then finally, this is the quadratic formula. This works. It works every single time as long as the quadratic is in standard form. You can use the quadratic formula every single time. As usual, if you guys have questions, you guys know where to find me. All right, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you guys all soon. Thanks.